朋友们，今天看到一个视频，可把我逗笑了。视频的内容是一群欧洲的政经专家在波兰一个节目中讨论如何取代中国。这个场景是不是很熟悉？最近这几年来，尤其是疫情之后，几乎所有的欧美国家都在强调如何去中国化，如何的化解产业链风险等等。他们似乎已经彻底的反应过来了，知道现在的中国已经非常的强大，欧洲人、美国人如果一直依靠我们的话，就再也摆脱不了这种依赖了。而对他们来说，这其实就是一种卡脖子在工业上给他们卡了脖子。你看节目中这些专家是多么的着急，可是他们的发言又是多么的让人绝望。基本上没有一个人可以提出有效的方法去替代中国。他们现在讨论的是，我们已经承认中国是无法替代的，但是在认知这个无法替代的情况下，我们能不能拿印度、东南亚这些国家去试一试，扶持一下他们，看能不能削弱中国。大家听一听这是多么让人绝望的话。作为中国人来说看到他们束手无策，的确是蛮搞笑的，而且还蛮得意的。得意的不是我个人，而是为这个国家强大的产业以及默默为之奋斗的诸多产业工人、工程师、科学家，我为他们而得意。大家一起来看一看这段视频。
For many years, we were actually sort of blinded and fascinated by the opportunities that China brought us and gave us. But now we're becoming here, at least here in Europe or in transatlantic region, much more skeptical for obviously political reasons. But is it not too late? Can we afford to actually distance ourselves from China?
Well, we can try, but it won't be easy. China is definitely the major second superpower on the globe. And what is extremely important is emerging as a technological superpower, which means that China is surpassing us, as my predecessor was just saying, in high tech, in artificial intelligence. We have only two players on the globe. That is
but
US
you said,
and
Professor,
China.
we could try, but should we try? Should we give it a try?
Probably it will be necessary because we are living in different times. We were engaged with China for several decades. And since 2018, we have trade and customs war with China. And
it's going to grow.
Strategic competition.
Yeah.
So it is completely different era.
Yeah.
Because the Western world, starting from the US, realized how big is the Chinese challenge.
Have you changed your mind a little bit? Because from one of your interviews, I'm reading in one of your interviews, regardless of what Americans think, you have to align with China. This is the quote from...
Not recently, because I'm changing my mind definitely, due to the two factors. One was the pandemic, when we discover how deeply we are engaged with China and how deeply dependent from China we are. And secondly, of course, Russian aggression, full-fledged aggression.
That changed everything.
That changed a lot because we are on different sides of the barricade. Even in China, I'm saying right now that there will be no business as usual in our bilateral relations until the war in Ukraine is not over.
Do you think that China is going to lose that dominance that we're observing at the moment?
Well, I think at some stage, yes, because we are already seeing that it is losing. But we have to remember one thing. The trade between EU and China is roughly around 740 billion euro. You cannot do it overnight.
That's a big thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I think Europe has to prepare gradually to, do a differentiation of cooperation. And what Professor said earlier also, with the war in Ukraine and the situation of the geopolitical, what China is doing right now in the Southeast Asia, I think that calls for whole Europe to rethink how they want to engage with China. I'm not saying...
Can India substitute China in any way?
Well, I don't think so it will be possible.
Or Asian countries?
Well, they can diversify, I'll put it this way. It is not the way that they should just eliminate the cooperation totally, because West, generally US and Europe, wanted China because that was a cheap market for them to produce.
You said it's actually almost our fault that we've made it grow in this direction.
Yeah, yes, it is, and the fault which we make right now is like, for example, we can discuss that we will move some production or whole production to Vietnam or to India. Energy.
It was our mistake.
If you want to produce something, you need energy. If China, by itself, as a manufacturing output, is bigger than USA, Germany, Japan, Korea, and India all together, so how you want to replace within 1 to 5 years?
So how long? Because the two gentlemen have just said that we should be actually trying, at least trying to do this. What would be the time scale?
We were doing
10 years,
that
20
for
years?
40 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
How long will it take us
to make it back? We need at least 40 years. Why? Whatever we have, we are short of one very important thing. It's an issue which I repeat again and again and again. People.
Okay.
I'm from Gdańsk. There were shipyards. There was whole universum of the whole infrastructure for shipping building, beginning from the schools, university, up to the shipyard. Now everything is finished, disappeared. There is no even single person in the proper age which you can take to start teaching technicians, teaching workers to build ships.
Right.
We are short of this, and this is the major problem.
And I'd like to ask Susan before we go on, because Susan hasn't spoken yet. So what is there in the Southeast Asia that we should really bet on, knowing that we should really change our strategy towards China?
Well, first of all, we have to have a good relation with China, but we need to be pragmatic about it as well, right?
And assertive.
Because the reality is that in new critical technologies, China is now has 75%, is a leader in 75% of those new critical technologies. And the rest are the US, 7 only. Right? That's kind of scary. And what's worse is that they have a monopolistic hold on many of those. So one way or the other, we will be having to deal with them. But there is promise here and there. For example, in the question of AI, Singapore has one of the world's premier...
It's number 3. It's number 3 after US.
One of the premier AI labs in the world. By the way, it was headed up by a Polish professor, Dr. Arthur Ecker, who's a friend of mine.
Academic exchanges, we've talked about it.
Yes, absolutely. They're also a leader. They also have a national policy for AI.
But, okay, but you're talking about industries, I understand, but can the rest of the region somehow, pardon me for this word, substitute the potential of China, working together as Asian countries plus India plus other countries of the region? Do you believe that they can replace this Chinese potential that we have contributed to building?
I think it'll be difficult to replace, and largely because of the governing structure of China. When China decides they want to do something, they can flip at a switch, right? The whole country moved, right? Everybody was looking for ways to accomplish that. The rest of Asia has all the individual countries with different policies and different structures.
Sure. Right? Professor Guralczyk, and then JJ, I remember
you will be surprised, our audience, if you look for the major power in Asia, it is still United States of America. We have think tank, Australian think tank, Lowy Institute, which is producing for more than a decade so-called Asia Power Index. And still, according to this index, if you take US as 100% as a number 1, China surpassed 90%. And for instance, India, South Korea, and Japan combined is smaller than China. So we have two major players on the Asian continent right now, which is US and China. And here everyone is starting immediately, South China Sea, Taiwan issue. No.
No.
To my mind, it is, first of all, high-tech and space, rare earth, artificial intelligence, new generation of computers, and so on and so forth.
JJ.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we cannot just finish the cooperation, but the question is also how we can jointly work to diversify. Coming back to the same point, you asked the question about whether the countries in Asia can cooperate. Yes, they can. But
and they are,
want to.
actually.
They are cooperating. But again, what Susan gave the example, that's also real, that in China, the way of working is different, where in the democracies of the world, the business decides if they want to do the things or not. So they have an edge over it. But on the long run, and I can see already, earlier there was offshoring the things from Western countries. Now they're reshoring the things because they want to reopen. Look at, the chips. USA, EU wants to bring it home. Will it happen tomorrow? No, but you have to start somewhere.
In terms of general international political climate, do you think things are changing and some change is coming in our European relations with Asia, Southeast Asia, the proportions of these?
It's already changed.
Okay.
It's already changed, and it will be, unfortunately, competition and strategic competition will be growing. Much depends from the US elections results. Secondly, what will go on the domestic scene in China.
So we are in a waiting mode, sort of.
But definitely, whatever happens in the US, they have bipartisanship. The common approach towards China, that China is our American major challenge, competition, even enemy. And this will not change.
Sure.
It will put us here in Europe in a very difficult position. For instance, Germany is deeply engaged in Chinese market.
Sure.
They cannot just lose it like Russia.
Europe has one foot in China, another foot across the Atlantic.
That's why I am arguing that for a short distance we need to diversify. For a long distance, definitely, it's difficult to predict what will happen.
Let me just ask, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, because in my opinion, what we are short of in Europe, it is a vision. We have no vision. Like, for example, China is following other East Asian countries, like, for example, South Korea.
They do have a vision. They do have a vision.
Yeah, of course. But in South Korea, General Park, at the end of 1960s, at the beginning of 1970s, he decided that South Korea will be the global champion in shipyards, in building of ships. And it happened.
Topic close to you.
Just ordered to leaders of big companies, you will do what state want you to do, not business is leading the country like United States, but the country, the state is leading the business. And the same is now in China. What we are short of, this is a vision, what we want to do as the thesis of this meeting. We are looking for fruits outside of China in Asia. We should think over and stop treating the world as a jungle and Europe as a garden.
Right.
Yeah. As soon as
we had this conviction, perhaps not in this part of Europe, but the rest would probably, with the heritage of colonialism and all the rest of it,
world is changing, but the old Europe is not changing at all.
Okay.